Another week, another brilliant, well, that's to be determined first and now episode. It is the official BC Lions podcast. Matt Baker, Nick Kowalski, great to be back with you all. We're inside the Go-Goat Sports Studios at the Wall Center, Burrard Street, brilliant location downtown. Nick, another big week ahead. What's going on, bud?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Nice to get the win on Thursday, up to 4-1 now, and not really used to these close games, but it was a fun one on Thursday.
Yeah, that was one of those. Hadn't really had one like that on the winning side in a while, when you're hanging on late in the fourth quarter and you're getting tight, you're getting a little. I for one was nervous. That felt like a playoff game for me. Just the intensity, and say what you want about the actual attendance number, but it was loud there in BC Place.
Yes, yeah.
It's like not one, not two, not three. 4 turnovers on downs in that fourth quarter. Marcus Sales with a big play. Gary Peters with the interception to seal it. And this defense, we're going to talk more about it with Ryan Phillips momentarily, but good to see a result like that where, as Nathan Rourke admitted, they weren't good enough on offense, but the defense has its best game, I'll say. And thankfully, that was good to see. And yeah, hey, win's a win.
Yeah, the stat sheets don't really tell the entire story about that, because Hamilton did finish with over 400 yards, but we saw pretty much the entire fourth quarter they were knocking on the door and they were getting goose eggs, whether it was, the Marcus Sales pass break up in the end zone, or Gary Peters wrapping it up with the interception on the final play of the game, but defense stood tall when it mattered.
Yes, and as mentioned, we'll talk to Ryan Phillips shortly, and it was and that was a win. Yeah, you're encouraged to see them gut it out. You're not going to put up 40, 50 points in all the wins or have a high-scoring back-and-forth affair like it was in Ottawa. So, hey, it's a new week. It's a new opportunity heading into the Hornets' nest now, into Saskatchewan. We'll talk a lot about that game, Lions and Rough Riders, but talking about the schedule, we're talking about a win on Thursday night. You had yourself a pretty good weekend. You got out to a concert. What was it?
Yeah. Machine Gun Kelly was in town, and I'm a pretty big fan. He also brought out Avril Lavigne. They have a song together, but she did about a 20-minute opening set, and she played all the throwbacks. So yeah, it was a fun night.
He's with Megan Fox, is it?
Yes.
I'm not up on all the celebrity news these
and
days.
He's a hip hop artist turned pop punk artist, so it's more completely rock-based music now.
So yourself and Stephen Chang of BCLions.com, Ryan Newberry, the three amigos were there. That was awesome.
Yeah, we got the squad out, and had a good time out in downtown Vancouver.
That's the beauty of playing a Thursday night game. I know a lot of the fans don't like it, but I like Thursday night games because that means you can have the odd Saturday just to kick back and do whatever was gorgeous summer night. Got the barbecue going on the patio, did up some chicken and
nice.
And did a little salad, had the in-laws over. Was absolutely an enjoyable Saturday. We love being around football. We love being involved in the game of football, but it's nice to have the odd weekend to just chillax, as the kids say, during the season.
And I saw this take on social media about the Sunday game yesterday. People are really digging that. Yeah, it was nice to have that too. Really good game, and just nice to have some CFL football kind of to close off the weekend. And I know it's something they can't do during the fall, but the summer, the opportunity's there, right?
And there is one this coming week. I think Toronto-Ottawa
BMO,
goes 2 o'clock our time. We'll go around. We'll preview the rest of the week's games in our final segment today, but we'll kind of kick it back to Lions and Saskatchewan. Yeah, the rare instance, maybe. I mean, we wish everyone in good health there with the Riders. They've had a COVID situation and still some uncertainty at quarterback with Cody Fajardo's knee, but maybe catching them at a good time here. Not going to have as much time to prepare after having their game pushed back, but not going to take anything for granted. It is a tough environment to play in. You've been there as a fan. I've been there for work several times, but an outstanding opportunity here. 5 straight games for this Lions team, Nick, against the West. 3 of them alone against Saskatchewan. We're going to do a home and home with these guys at the end of August. So this is feeling like playoff-type football starting for a few weeks.
Oh, for sure, yeah. And two of those trips are to Mosaic of the 3 that we played against Saskatchewan. So it's a tough environment, but it's what you kind of live for, right? What you kind of want to see. It's going to be great games, and it's going to really show, I guess, everyone around the league who the top dogs in the West are. Whoever comes out, especially for us. Like I know Calgary is they have a stretch with Winnipeg again here, so it's like the best on the best is going up against each other in the West, and we'll see who comes out on top.
And I still see the odd naysayer. Oh yeah, they're 4-1, but they beat Toronto, they beat Edmonton, they beat Hamilton, and this is still professional football. Yeah, they're going to have to prove they can win these games against these tougher opponents in the West, but I don't think any of these opponents up until this point have lost pro football status, Nick.
Oh, how poorly did they play Toronto take age? Because since then, Toronto's beat Saskatchewan twice and was a missed PAT away from going to overtime with Winnipeg.
3-2, top of the East. Yeah.
So I think the Argos are pretty solid, and the wins are the wins, right? Like they're legit. Like they're wins against professional football teams. So, I mean, I don't buy any excuses, and we've seen a lot of extraordinary circumstances this year with teams teams playing off 2 days of practice and all of that. So, I mean, everyone's going through different situations and having to overcome them too, right?
You know what? While we have a few minutes before Ryan Phillips, a Lions defensive coordinator, and we're going to go around, we're going to preview the other games. We said, we're sort of talking about it, so let's look back at the week that was. We talked about our 17-12 win over Hamilton. Maybe not the way it was drawn up, but impressive. And we've talked about the fact that the Saskatchewan Roughriders had to play their Sunday game against Toronto. It was the Andrew Harris show, 143 yards on the ground. Great to see. He surpassed 10,000 for his great career. Congratulations to Andrew Harris, forever a Lion as well as a Blue Bomber. But Toronto going in there, kind of, did they get away with one? 5 turnovers, that crazy sequence before half, the missed field goal attempt returned by Alford for Saskatchewan for a touchdown. You're thinking, okay, here we go. You let Saskatchewan up off the mat, backup quarterback, but keep pounding the ball, keep grinding it out, and Toronto was actually full marks for that win.
Yeah, the offense ran through Harris. It was all 33. Even when they turned it over on the goal line there, it was just a carry to 33 up the middle, and he actually got stuffed. But, I mean, whenever he sees green and white, he gets up. Throughout his career in Winnipeg, he always tended to have strong games against the Riders. His last game at IG Field as a Bomber was against the Riders, and he had over 100 in that game too. So whenever he sees green and white, he seems to have his best games as a running back there. But yeah, Toronto, that missed field goal was crazy. And we were talking about this earlier. Boris Beatty's probably the one guy you want to try a 61-yarder with because he actually has the leg to actually hit that. But yeah, that's the risky run when you have the return game possible with a missed field goal, and Mario Alford made them pay.
That's all. That game had everything. We were talking last week about how crazy it was overall. It wasn't quite as crazy, but that Toronto-Saskatchewan game was appointment theater for Sunday night. Winnipeg-Edmonton on Friday. Now, Friday night on dad duty, wife was out with some friends, so nice little daddy-daughter night with the 3-year-old. Ordered some pizza, played with some toys, all the fun father activities that you don't yet know about, maybe one day. But so the deal we made was, okay, sweetheart, Libby, we're going to put the Winnipeg-Edmonton game on. I'll play with you. We'll do the toys and everything, but we're going to have this game on in the background. And boy, oh boy, I don't think I missed much, although the Blue Bombers, opportunistic once again, just typical, right? Their first touchdown of the game came after another tipped interception, right? Mm-hmm. Wasn't pretty. Edmonton, the signs are there. The signs are there. We've seen them gut out 2 good wins in the East, but they still can't get it done at home. And, hey, you have to think the potential's there for Taylor Cornelius and the Elks. Manny Arsenault was quite outspoken after the game, saying, yeah, we just have to execute better. But Winnipeg, not an impressive 7-0, but they're 7-0.
Yeah, a couple quick deep completions to Rashid Bailey and Dalton Schoen, and that got them the points they needed. And then when it really came down to it, their defense, especially the D-line, and it has been for the last couple of years or so, they really showed out. I mean, I think they had 5 sacks. Willie Jefferson had 3 knockdowns. Became the first CFL player ever with 50 pass knockdowns and 50 sacks. So
impressive.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's a one of one, and Winnipeg just found a way again. I mean, Zach Collaros threw a couple interceptions. Edmonton couldn't take advantage of those opportunities, but then, like you said, on the Dietrich Nichols interception in the first quarter, Collaros hits Rashid Bailey in a really, really nice touchdown on the corner route, and that's, like I said, that's all Winnipeg really needed to get more. Edmonton only scored 10 points, so they didn't need a lot on offense, but they got it done.
There was a situation late in the fourth where they thought they were going to get the ball back, but then took a roughing the kicker penalty. That's maybe your final dagger. Was it?
Yeah, it was a fourth quarter drive that took up more time on possession than they had in the entire first half. It was over 9 minutes, and it got extended through that penalty.
Simple execution, like we were talking about with Manny Arsenault.
And then you find a team like Winnipeg too, and I'll say they've been kind of the gold standard in the CFL for the last couple of years. They took 3 penalties on Friday. The BC Lions Thursday night they take 3 penalties too, and then you see a team like Montreal that's taking 100 yards on a gamely basis, right? So that's kind of the difference right now between wins and losses, are the teams that are trending upwards and the teams that are maybe trending a little downward right now.
Yep, that's professional football at its finest. Thursday night, we're getting ready to host Hamilton, and full disclosure, didn't really catch much of this one, only a couple of highlights, but kind of back and forth. We keep wondering, Nick, when are the Ottawa Redblacks going to get a win? And at this point, you can't just automatically go to, well, maybe they're better than what their record indicates. Clearly something's missing there. I know it's unfortunate. We've talked in the last couple of weeks, Jeremiah Masoli being out, but the Montreal Alouettes, led by Trevor Harris, get a win 40-33 in Ottawa. So maybe you don't quite count Montreal out yet in this Eastern race. Ottawa clearly behind the 8 ball here now, though.
Yeah, I caught that one on the PVR, and that was a really fun game, actually. It came down to the wire. We caught the end on the sidelines, actually. We saw the Darvin Adams with that unfortunate drop in the end zone, which is ironic because Darvin, he had a tremendous game. He had over 100 yards in that game, but in that game, Trevor Harris just really shredded the Red Blacks pass defense, and that's kind of why Montreal ended up with the win. And they got a timely turnover lately. Micah Alway was about a yard away from scoring a touchdown on a fumble recovery. And then, Caleb Evans looked really strong for Ottawa. Both quarterbacks looked really strong. They both accumulated over 340 yards of offense and didn't turn the ball over. So what more can you ask for in terms of if you like offense? That was a game for you. But Ottawa, they're 0-6, but if you're watching the football, they're much better than 0-6. And I know you say that the excuse is maybe expiring, but I mean, they look solid. And I go back to when we were there, they looked good against us.
Yeah.
They gave us a good fight. So,
that was a battle.
I mean, they just got to keep at it, and I believe they play a lot of Eastern opponents coming up too, right? And they're at Toronto this weekend, so if they can start racking up divisional wins, they'll be in a playoff spot, and that's all they can really ask for after this really ugly start for them in the standings.
Yeah, and mentioning that crazy final minute or so, we're on the sideline waiting for our game to start because TSN's not going to start our game until that series was over. It wasn't a situation where we'd be waiting for a possible overtime to end, but looked like Ottawa was going to get a fresh set of downs on our roughing the passer, was it?
Yeah.
But they reveal it wasn't a penalty, and then on the next play they're unable to capitalize.
Yeah.
So very frustrating. If you're a Red Black fan, you're clearly frustrated.
There were 2 on that drive that were reviewed for kind of high borderline hits, and both were deemed not penalties against Montreal. Ironically, the same player too. It was Mike Moore, and neither were called penalties. So Montreal escaped, and they're sitting kind of pretty in the East Division too right now. They're in second place despite all the kind of drama that's been going on.
I don't think you can count anyone out, really. I mean, Hamilton's at 1-5. Ottawa, they're playing each other at least 2 more times, right? But again, something has to click. And Paul Lapalisse, Mike Benavides, great guys, good football guys. And we're biased because we know both of them a little bit. But something has to change there in a hurry. So there's your Week 7 recap. Lions Rough Riders going toe-to-toe. We'll talk about the rest of the Week 8 games before we're done, but up next, what has been the secret sauce to this improved BC Lions defense? Ryan Phillips, the one and only, is going to tell us on First and Now. Ryan Phillips, BC Lions defensive coordinator, longtime mainstay with the franchise. We've been pumping up that defense here on First and Now. It's Matt Baker alongside Nick Kowalski. And RP's with us here. RP just wrapping up day 1 of practice and post-practice films. How goes the battle here, Ryan, as we prepare for Saskatchewan?
Just trying to make sure we're fine-tuning as best as possible to get ourselves prepared to play. That's the biggest thing, making sure guys are healthy, but making sure we're taking care of all the disciplines and the mental aspect of the game to make sure that we're doing things to game plan properly, to make sure we're taking, everything into account for a tough team. It's going to be a tough contest this week, and we're playing against a good team that plays well at home. So, we got to make sure that we have our best foot forward. That way we're putting ourselves in position to go ahead and win this game.
think it was your classic bend but don't break against the Tiger Cats on Thursday. 4 of those turnovers coming in that final quarter. You held them off the score sheet in that fourth quarter. Finishing, that's what counts, but surely you've watched the film and you've done the grading. Anything stick out from that performance against the Tiger Cats?
Yeah, just some of the self-inflicted things. Those are the things that you want to avoid, right? You never want to beat yourself. And sometimes we were in good positions. Sometimes we didn't finish plays, whether that's getting sacks, whether that's, making the sure tackle, to keep them out of, first down range and so forth. Those are the things that we can improve on, right? So, if we want to be the elite defense that we want to be, and, we count ourselves as being a part of the elite group, but we want to be the elite defense. So those are things that are always, something that, sticks in your mind that you want to build upon and get better at. And, right now is the time to continuously progress in the right direction. Is anybody going to play perfect? No, but, we want to make sure we're taking the proper steps to, make sure that we're going to be that elite defense to get ourselves in a position to make a good run towards the end of the year. And, we're still building upon that right now as we speak.
A lot was made about free agency. Luchez Purifoy, Delvin Breaux getting into a groove after missing a game or two. And, I've had a couple pleasant surprises. A guy like Quincy Mauger comes to mind. The defensive line is playing a lot better. Clearly you're not satisfied yet, just listening to your last answer there. But what would you say the main reason for the early season success here, Ryan?
Whenever you bring in veteran guys, it's always a big addition, usually when it goes into a positive manner, right? A positive attitude, a positive mindset, guys that want to be leaders, guys that want to lead, guys that have had success in this league. Those guys help mold guys like Quincy Mauger and some of the other young guys that are now having an opportunity to play. Those guys now kind of take on the heated pressure and now release some of the pressure from the young guys, and that way it makes their job a little bit easier. So it's definitely a great addition to have those guys. Those guys have been to Grey Cups. They know what it takes to be successful. And then you have the spark plugs like Quincy that want to come in and be a sponge. They're not trying to be somebody that they're not. They're not trying to be the veteran guy that's always has to be the voice. They want us to listen. They want to learn. They want to do all the necessary things to become a better professional. And then when it's their time to be a veteran, then they'll do so. So I think we have a great mixture, a great group, guys that want to, continuously get better. They want to be the elite defense as well. So, they want to do all the necessary steps through the process, and they're not trying to jump the gun early. So, that definitely goes alongside of the things I talked about as far as taking the proper steps at the right time. So that way we can get to where we want to be.
On RP, you say you got a great group with you, and we can all see that. But it's also a group that has a lot of fun on, whether it's just the smiling at practice or obviously the celebrations and all that. But is that something you kind of harp on to have your defense celebrate? No, why would that be?
Yeah, I harp on it all the time. At the end of the day, this is a game, and the game hasn't changed as far as it's the same game you played as a kid. There's lines on the field. There's a football. You run, hit, and tackle. I just tell them at the end of the day, the thing that makes it a bigger difference, there's a lot more people in the crowd. And when you have that mentality, sometimes it does calm you down. It takes away the added stress, takes away the added, heat and pressure. But at the end of the day, yes, you do get paid to do this for a living. So, yes, you definitely have a standard that has to be met on a daily basis. But you got to be able to enjoy this moment. Careers are short-lived. And I can say that, for a person that played as long as I did, but it still went by pretty fast. So, I want guys to enjoy the moment, enjoy the moments, enjoy your teammates, enjoy the opportunities. Everybody doesn't get this opportunity. And my also thing when it comes to dancing and so forth is the fact that, when you dance and celebrate, you have the expectation of making plays. No one dances or celebrates when they don't make plays. And I want that to be the expectation in the room. So, when guys are talking about, celebrations and so forth, that means they have the expectation to make that big play, make that sack, make that interception. And I want that to be the vocal point of the mindset every single time we touch the field.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And then one thing that's also stood out to me is that it's always a group that's celebrating too. It's not just an individual, right? You guys are always doing that as a team, which is good to see. But now that we're 5 games into the season here, 7 weeks into the season overall, I'm interested to hear from your perspective the hash mark change. Do we have a big enough sample size yet to see what difference that has made this season?
Yeah, I think you're starting to see it. Some of the difficulties that some other teams have that we don't are definitely starting to present themselves a little bit more. I think we have a dynamic group, so that's what makes it not as hard of a change for us. When you don't have 2 premier corners like we do in Gary Peters and Delvin Breaux, I think it makes our adjustments a lot easier. Able to deal with the same amount of space on both sides. Sometimes, when it comes to the hash marks, guys, having the ability to be able to do that at a high level is definitely something that we're taking advantage of, and also having that that flexible will linebacker. We have
Mhm.
Bo Lacombo, and we also have guys that are playing in that position now that are more athletic, a little bit leaner from that standpoint, so they're a little bit more versatile. And that's definitely gave us an edge, I think, compared to maybe some other teams that are still trying to find guys to be able to fit into that role. So it's definitely been a great addition for us as far as the guys that we have in the room being able to eliminate that factor as much as possible. Yes, you'll see it, but it's not to the extent where it's jeopardizing us as a defense or jeopardizing our success rate.
And then that front seven, especially, we've seen a lot of guys been rotating in. I mean, on the depth chart, I think there were 10 defensive linemen, I want to say, dressed on Thursday. So, what kind of role does that play in your defense in terms of rotating guys in and obviously keeping them fresh?
Oh man, I mean that's the biggest thing, right? Trying to keep guys fresh, kind of trying to make guys as energetic and enthusiastic as possible to get to the quarterback. You can't win in this league without affecting the quarterback. That is something that I definitely put a staple on. That guy touches the ball every single play, so we have to find ways to affect him as best as possible. And the more fresher that we are, the better that we have a chance at going ahead and accomplishing that. So, we do dress a lot of D linemen from that standpoint. It has its benefits. Do we want to capitalize on those benefits a little bit more? Of course, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure we're putting our guys out there as fresh as possible. Some of those guys play special teams, but we want those guys to be able to get after the quarterback, be able to stop the run, do the necessary things at that point to affect the guy that's touching the ball all the time and the most valuable guy on every single team.
Can't ever get you on without at least going down memory lane a bit, RP. I know you love doing it, but going into Saskatchewan, whether it was that friendly rivalry you'd have with Darian Durant, whether it was Rob Murphy and those guys jumping into the hot tub in the playoff game. I think you had a couple interceptions in that playoff game too, by the way, but 2008. Any specific memory of old Taylor Field as a player stick out?
Man, you know what? That place is magical. I will say that. And it's magical in the sense of being, a part of the opposition going in and going into a place like that, especially playoff time. I mean, that place gets rocking. And I've always said that throughout my career, man, there's no funner place in my mind to play from an opposition standpoint. I mean, they give you everything that you want. The teams were good, but also the fan base makes it what it is. And, I can think of a couple good games and things like that I've had in my past out there. But, 2008 was definitely a good year from a playoff standpoint. Just from an individual standpoint, but also as a team, we went out there and played well. Even 2011, in that sense, a couple of times that we ended up going in there when we start to get on our run, that was special in itself too. So, just to see, guys now having this opportunity to play in a different stadium, but still the same type of environment. Same type of crowd. I still get the jitters when I run out, even as a coach. I take my time to walk out because you still feel the energy in the stadium, and I thrive off of that, and I love it, So I look forward to seeing it this Friday. It's always a great place to play. It's something that you always look forward to. It's the better division game. So for me, like I said, I always look forward to it and create more memories for us, but obviously in a positive result and in a positive manner. That way we can go out there and get this win.
One moment in the old place I won't forget was my first year working for the team, first year traveling, 2016, week 3-4. I remember TJ Lee suffered that Achilles injury, and Wally actually brought the whole team into the training room so he could be part of the game balls presentation. Ironically, I don't know if you knew this, RP, this week TJ slated to play his 100th career game. What can you say about the great BC Lion he's become and a great milestone for him?
Well, I told him he still got a long way to go to catch me, so I told him he could forget that, as far as that goes. But I tease him about that all the time. TJ's someone I've known for a long time, another guy from Seattle that I've known for a long time. Came in when I was still playing. He's like a little brother in that sense, a leader on his team, a captain, a guy that always puts his best foot forward. So, you always root for guys like that to come in and, have a positive career, a career that's definitely, able to, set milestones and be able to achieve greatness and, be all stars and so forth. And TJ deserves everything that he's getting. He has a tremendous work ethic, always a constant professional, everybody respects him in the room. And I think that always speaks a lot, from that standpoint. To me, that's always the biggest thing. Do the guys in the room respect you? Do the guys in the room look up to you in that sense? Do they expect the best out of you because they know that you're going to deliver on a week in, week out basis? And everybody knows that, you're going to get the best TJ every single week. And that's something that I harp on as a coach. That's something that I believe in. His consistency has been great. So I'm definitely happy for him to get to his 100th game, and I hope it's everything that he wants it to be. I hope he gets a couple interceptions and things like that, from that standpoint, so we can go ahead and celebrate together. And then at that point, we can move on, from that point and go ahead and put it in the record books.
Yeah, he's several games behind you. You had 214 under your belt, so you're sitting pretty. And he's about 29 interceptions behind you, I think. So.
I'm gonna remind him about that too.
There you go. Don't reveal your source. As far as this current challenge here, Saskatchewan in a bit of a rough patch right now, but certainly we take nothing for granted. Little uncertain as we record this what they're going to be doing at the quarterback position this week, but what type of a challenge do you expect against this current Riders offense?
They're well coached. I mean, that's the thing about it. They're well seasoned coached. They're coached by Jason Maas, and someone that's been around the league for a long time, a guy that knows offense, a guy that's been successful in this league from a head coach and offensive coordinator standpoint, and even as a player. I played against him for a few years as well. So I understand Jason is a fiery guy, a guy that wants to go out there and compete and doesn't make excuses based off of who's, on the roster or not. So I expect them to put their best foot forward. I mean, for offensively, they definitely want to establish the run. That's something that they've been, able to do. They've been a pretty balanced team throughout the course of this year, whether that's with Cody playing or even without. So, I know that's something that they staple on, that's something that they definitely want to establish, and it opens up their pass game. And, despite the injuries that they have, they're still able to put the ball downfield. They showcased it last week, even with a backup quarterback. They still made some plays, when need to, and they had opportunity to try to, take over the game and win it. So that's all you can really ask for. Do you present yourself with an opportunity to win? And the guys they had on roster did that. So, I expect them to put their best foot forward. They're not going to make any excuses. We're not either. We're not taking anything for granted. So whoever they do dress, we know we got to go out there and perform and take care of our own business. And that's the only thing we're worried about. What are the BC Lions going to do? How we're going to show up as a defense, and how we're going to try to dominate the game to make sure we go out of there with a win.
RP, someone that's been a pleasant surprise when it comes to interceptions this season has been Gary Peters. He already has 3 on the year. I believe did he have 1 last year, or did he have 0 last year?
He had 0 last year.
That was a big deal in the secondary room, correct?
For sure.
Yeah. So what's going on this year? Why does he have 3 already?
You know what, man? Gary, he's probably one of my favorite guys. I mean, everybody thinks TJ is my favorite, which, whatever. That's a bias in itself, right? Because he's from Seattle and everything else. But Gary is one of my favorite by far. Me and Gary get into it all the time. But it's out of love. And the thing about it is, Gary, the thing I love about Gary, to be honest, he challenges you as a coach. And I don't mean in a disrespectful manner. I mean, he challenges the whys and the hows and so forth. And it's just more so he's eager to learn. He wants to understand. He has a football mind. So in times in meetings, he wants to challenge and ask, okay, well, why are we doing it this way? What do you see about this as the reason why we are doing it this way? And if you're not prepared to have those answers at that point, then he'll be able to tell whether if you really did your homework or your own research. And I accept that. And I love that about him. Some other guys might take it as challenge and authority, but I don't. I think that you should try to understand and get a full sense of why we're doing things as a defense schematically, because I was that same type of player. So with that being said, I think that now he's starting to get a better understanding of the game. It's slowing down for him even more now with playing experience. And then the guys around him. I mean, guys around you always make it a lot easier. When you know the guy around you is going to do his job, the guy around you is going to perform at the same level as you, if not greater. And the expectation around the room is that we're going to be the best every single week, week in and week out. I think that makes you raise your level of play. And he's capitalizing on that. I said it from the jump, and I still believe it. I feel like we do have the 2 best corners in the league. I feel like those guys are, I would say the standard and pinnacle when it comes to, like I said, corner play right now at this point. And I'm going to harp on that, and nothing's going to change my mindset with that. So it enables us to do some things on defense that I feel like some other teams can't. And as long as they're playing at a high level, I feel like Gary's going to continuously reap the benefits and continuously make more plays throughout the course of the year.
Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing based off how strong you believe each cornerback is, that's what went into the decision to have them play left and right on the field and not a boundary half that we typically see in the CFL defenses.
Yeah. I mean, those guys have, a unique ability. Both of those guys have been boundary corners. Both of those guys can play. Both of those guys understand the game. They can play with vision. Their experience makes them understand route concepts and other things, how offenses try to attack defenses a lot better. So I'm able to play that way. Other teams have to continuously move guys left and right. But with the guys that I have, I don't have to do so. And I think that makes us dynamic. It makes it more harder for people to game plan against us instead of, game planning against one in particular guy that you may see in one spot all the time. Depending on where that guy, where the ball ends up landing on each hash mark, you can see anybody from that sense. So I think that makes us great. I think it was a great thing and a great addition by our personnel staff to be able to get both of those guys here, maintaining Gary and then also bringing in Delvin from that standpoint. So I think it makes us unique, makes us different than any other defense in the league. And at that point now, it's just up for us now to go ahead and make the plays and for me not to mess them up by putting them in bad positions.
Yeah, one more Peters interception. We're going to have to get him on an episode of the podcast here.
Oh, gosh.
But you know what it's like with him. You got to go through publicists and everything. So, no,
gosh, man.
That's good to see. Yeah, Gary Peters, the number change certainly did him well. We know you're a big family guy, coaching basketball, RP Jr. and Braden fully entrenched in their sports, their activities. How's the dad life these days? I know you're fully entrenched in football, but we've had a couple bye weeks, no doubt. You've had a chance to get down to Seattle.
Oh, yeah, I'm a dad first. I mean, that's for sure. That's never going to change. Coaching AAU basketball is a thrill of mine. It's one that's relaxing. It gets you a refresher from football, but also, you get a chance to make an impact in your community. And that's the biggest thing for me. So, they just got back from Vegas. They played an AAU tournament in Vegas just this past weekend. They both lost in the semifinals. So they're both kind of, upset about that and bitter about that. But they played well, and they went out there and, they played, pretty well from that standpoint. Ryan's been down there a couple of times now because now he's 16 years old, so he's older. But this was Braylon's very first time ever playing in Vegas, so he was overly excited, being 9 years old and being down there as a third grader. So, the best is still yet to come for them guys, and I take pride in being a dad. I'm all about supporting them and giving them all the tools to be more successful than I've ever been. And I feel like they're on their way. So, dad life is great. Now that this is kind of, going to the end of the basketball season, I can get them up here, more and more now to get to some games because, they miss it. And, even the people around the facility that are used to seeing them, miss them too and want to see them too, especially now that they're so much older. So I look forward to it. Hopefully it happens sooner than later, but I'm definitely always thrilled about anything I could do as a dad, from that standpoint.
Yeah. Ryan's pretty much as big as you now too, right?
I hate it. Hate it. He's almost basically as tall as me. His voice is changing. I don't like calling him on the phone because he tries to have a deeper voice. I can't stand it. I don't know who he thinks he is.
Yeah, at that age where they don't want to hear from dad, probably, right? So
for sure, he ignores my calls. I know how he is. Don't worry about it. I get it. He's at that teenager stage, so he's all right.
Yeah, it'll pass. We know you're big into Seattle sports, Mariners, Seahawks, the Kraken now. Growing up there, who were some of the Seattle sports figures you looked up to the most?
Man, since I played AAU basketball and all that stuff, Gary Payton was always somebody that was big. He actually had an all-star team that turned into an AAU team that I was a part of. We were the very first ones, and he did it with Vin Baker. We were called Gary Payton and Vin Baker All-Stars.
Wow.
And we had guys like myself, Nate Robinson, some other guys on the team that also made it to the NBA. We were all on the same team, and it was just, a different dynamic, in that sense. So, with Gary Payton, everything was sponsored. So we were kind of like the lucky good kids that got to play and didn't have to really pay any money. So, that was a good thing. We traveled everywhere. I mean, that was great. So Gary Payton was always a staple. But in my day and time, during that time, my cousin who did not play in Seattle, but was born and raised, was Eric Metcalf. He was always going to be the number one inspiration, and he still is now. He's family of mine, but also like a brother. We're close. We always, stayed together, all the time. I was always following up under him, still do to this day, every single time I go home from that standpoint. So he was kind of the hero for me from a young standpoint. And then King Griffey. King Griffey is the staple. I don't care what anybody says. He's the most popular guy in Seattle. He's the most popular guy, around. He used to come to the local community centers and everything. Like King Griffey is that guy. So, even though I wasn't even the baseball playing guy to that extent, I played a little bit, but not to that extent. But King Griffey, I seen change the landscape of Seattle while he was in his prime. And I respect him to the fullest, and forever he'll be forever the greatest Seattle player, anything in my mind, as far as, to this day.
It's a bit of a nugget here for you. Nick, you probably weren't even born yet, back 1994, 1995, nope. Somewhere in there. The Mariners actually played at BC Place, Ryan. It was an exhibition series. I think they played the Rockies. Unfortunately, Edgar Martinez ripped up his hamstring or something on that old turf. And you probably remember that, him being injured. But yeah, it's a shame those Mariners teams couldn't find any pitching with Griffey and A-Rod and Buhner and them. That's you look at
all
teams.
They had was Randy.
Yeah, you look at teams that should have won a World Series.
Yep,
that one's up there, and it's a damn shame the Sonics still aren't back.
Yeah, man, it sucks, man. I mean, even just from a landscape of tourism and the money that Seattle was missing by not having the Sonics alone, I mean, that already says enough in itself. But just basketball in general, I mean, the funny thing I always say about our AAU basketball is, like, we have one of the number one programs in the nation from an AAU basketball standpoint. Like, we just had the number one draft pick just this past year in Paulo Banchero, who's also from Seattle, plays on our AAU team as well. And even outside of that, though, we don't have, an NBA basketball team. And, for us to generate so many guys, getting drafted per capita, like, we're like in the top 5 in the nation the last like 15, 20 years. And, for us not to have a basketball team and still generating so much talent, it's definitely hard, for these kids to be able to still continuously have to, go somewhere else to get inspiration, whether that's driving down to Portland or going, out of town. So, it sucks in that aspect. I hope they come back sooner than later, because, I want to be able to take my kids to games. And we just miss that aspect of, of life and sports from a basketball standpoint in Seattle.
Yep. I just broke the bank for a couple of Canucks Kraken tickets for Seattle in January. But now looking forward to checking that out. It's something we haven't been able to do. Yeah, have a short road trip to watch the hockey team. So, but one of these days it'll be good to get down there for some NBA. Hopefully, knock on wood.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. Like I said, I hope they at least have the exhibition games or something, coming in sooner than later.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for this. Always a pleasure talking to you. And I know we're heading into the Hornets' nest here this week, but I think this team is up to the challenge, and we'll look forward to talking to you after another win, RP.
Absolutely. Like I said, we'll be dialed in and ready to go. And like I said, the expectation is still the same. Go in there and go get a win, and go ahead, fly home and get ready for the next.
Excellent stuff with Ryan Phillips, 4-time CFL All-Star, 2-time Grey Cup champ. I didn't want to bring this up because it's maybe still some old wounds, but it's a shame he couldn't be re-signed for one last year. He could have passed Larry Crawford for all-time interceptions, but that's okay. Yeah, you look at Ryan Phillips' bio, there's 2 games there in 2017 with the Montreal Alouettes. It's one of those you see a picture of him, that doesn't look right. And
yeah, Michael Jordan in a Wizards jersey.
Yeah, exactly. Wayne Gretzky with St. Louis. Yeah, you know the theme of what we're getting at. But great stuff with Ryan. Can branch out with him like we did, talk about his kids' basketball. And it's funny, Ryan Phillips Jr., you heard him, just turned 16. He's as big as his old man now. I remember covering the games at Empire Field, and Ryan Phillips Jr. was just like a 2-year-old running around. So time certainly does fly, and it's a good test for this defense. You heard him say there, Saskatchewan is well coached, still have some good personnel, depending on what happens with Mr. Fajardo at quarterback, but you can tell they're not taking anything for granted.
No, definitely not. And then Duke Williams is slated to be back in the lineup, and you could argue he's the best receiver in the CFL at this point. And Keenan Schaefer-Baker's really emerged as another strong receiver, and I believe Jamal Morrow is still leading the CFL in rushing. So yeah, like they're quite a force on offense right now.
Very much looking forward to it. 6:00 p.m. Friday night. We'll be on hand. Be sure to keep it tuned to all of our social media channels, at BC Lions on Twitter, BC Lions Official on Instagram, and bclions.com, of course. Your previews, your recaps, your post-game interviews, your behind the scenes. Looking forward to seeing what Road in 5 will look like after a potential victory here. But obviously, we want to talk about some of the other games. We'll be on the ground in Regina Thursday afternoon. Going to have to head to one of our favorite watering holes in Regina to watch Hamilton hosting Montreal. See if the Alouettes can build off an impressive win in Ottawa. And the Tiger Cats, again, 1-5, but they get another win and they're right back in the thick of it. So very interested to see this one on Thursday.
Yeah, big one. And I know we talked about how our receivers lined up against Hamilton's secondary last week, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how Montreal's going against Hamilton's again this following week, because Montreal really packs the punch at receiver with Eugene Lewis, Jake Weineke, Reggie White's had a really good year for them. Even Grant too. They have now as the Canadian out there, and they put on a show against Ottawa, and I mean another test in Hamilton, and we'll see how that goes.
Danny Machocha now 1-1 since making that coaching change. Had that weird loss to Edmonton that we talked about on last week's episode. So there's your Thursday first game. We're the standalone on Friday. When we go back to Regina in 3 weeks, I believe we're the second half of a doubleheader, which means we'll be kicking off at 8 o'clock p.m. in Regina.
Ooh.
So those are fun.
Could be waiting on the sidelines a couple minutes again.
Yeah, those 8 p.m. Mountain Time starts when you're on the road. You're sitting there all day. It's like, oh, there's 6 hours to game time. But we won't worry about that right now. Saturday, Calgary home to Winnipeg. The 4-1 Stampeders tied with your Lions currently for second in the West. And are the Winnipeg Blue Bombers due for a loss here? I'm saying that's going to happen at McMahon Stadium.
Calling a shot.
Well, we don't want to give anyone any bulletin board material. We don't want to be talking about ice cream flavors or anything. But Calgary has looked very impressive. Winning games every way possible. They're coming off the bye as well. I think Dave Dickinson coming off the bye. I think it's almost Andy Reid-like in terms of his all-time record coming off the bye. Andy Reid has a winning percentage of like 800 in his career coming off the bye. But again, stranger things have happened. We've learned to expect the unexpected. Yeah. But
does Winnipeg have a bye? Like, what's going on here at this point?
They might have a few after Labor Day.
Yeah, they must.
Yeah, that's there. I mean, Lions will always call our game the game of the week, but Calgary, Winnipeg, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, we were talking in the car on the way here that it's really best on best in the West this week and in the weeks to come even too, with Labor Day obviously coming up with Winnipeg and Saskatchewan, but then we also play Calgary again coming up. So a lot of best on best there, and we'll really find out who the top teams in the West really are.
So I know what I'll be doing Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. I'll be
looking forward to that one.
Very much looking forward to it. And then we hit on it briefly in the open. Another Sunday game, although this one was planned from the get-go. 2 o'clock our time. The first place above 500, 3-2 Toronto Argonauts hosting the 0-6, the hapless Ottawa Redblacks. Can you imagine a scenario where a team in the East actually moves to 2 games above 500 a third of the way through the year? I think, you have to give McLeod, Bethel Thompson, and Andrew Harris credit. There's going to be a heavy dose of 33 yet again. So another tough environment for Ottawa going into here, looking for that first win.
Mm-hmm. Ottawa, like last week especially, they've kind of been exposed in the secondary, though, so I'm interested to see if Toronto and McLeod, Bethel Thompson, they kind of take advantage of the aerial attack they got, because they got some pretty good weapons. I know Cam Phillips has really emerged this year for them, and then Curly Gittins Jr. is becoming one of the best Canadian receivers in the CFL too, so they can kind of get it done both ways on offense, and I think that's why Toronto is above 500 right now, and they got a really physical defense. Winton McManus coming in for that season, he's a physical player, and they really bring it on D.
Don't be fooled by the result here. June 25th, that was not the true colors of the Toronto Argos.
No.
McLeod Bethel Thompson even said it in his post-game scrum. It was Frank Ziccarelli there of the Toronto Sun asking him the question, and I think McLeod said, well, bottom line is we're not that bad, and BC's not that good. And yeah, we talked about it. We're not going to hang 40 points on everybody, but yeah, you have to give them credit for how they've recovered, and I think at this point, you have to say it goes through them. Remember, they finished first in the East last year. A couple of crazy turning points in that Eastern final. It could have easily been the Toronto Argonauts at Tim Hortons Field in that Grey Cup against Winnipeg. So, but a lot of football left to be played here, and each game this week has another cool storyline. So
Yeah, Jalen Acklin back in Toronto. I know he actually started that comeback for the Hamilton Tiger Cats in that Eastern final when he was a member of them now. And now he's having a tremendous year with the Red Blacks now. I believe he snatched a flag after that touchdown too. There was an Argos flag in the end zone and he snatched it.
Took it away.
Yeah, that's a little rivalry brewing.
There was all kinds of extracurricular stuff going on, fighting with the fans. And, The Argos assistant GM at the time, John Murphy, getting disciplined and getting in trouble.
Yeah, and Chris Edwards, who was suspended from that, is actually back in the lineup for the Argos. He was out there playing. Yeah, so I mean, he's a really good player too. So they got some good linebackers too, especially when Hinoch Mwamba's in the middle. We haven't even mentioned him.
Right. Yeah, very physical, like you said. So Toronto, Ottawa wrapping it up on Sunday. We're wrapping it up here now on First and Now. While we're on Twitter at First and Now, I'm at BakesTakes84. He is at Nick Kowalski, Nick_Kowalski.
Yeah.
Nick with just a K, no C, KOWALSKI.
Yes.
It's always harder to spell out loud as opposed to writing it down. But totally interactive here. We appreciate you listening. We're at the Go-Goat Sports Studios inside the Wall Center, home of Sakaris and Price. That's going to do it for now on First and Now.